Hi everyone, my name's Daryl. So last year I made a video about how to make camping reservations at Yosemite, and after making reservations for the last 2 years, I figured it was time to update the content for 2023, kind of cut out a little bit of the fluff that I had in there, and also give you some additional pointers. As most of you know, it's difficult to make reservations at Yosemite Valley, as there are only 3 campgrounds available: Upper Pines, Lower Pines, and North Pines. This has been made even more difficult for 2023, as North Pines is now on the lottery system. Yosemite campsites are released on the 15th of every month, and they list them 5 months in advance. So depending on when you want to go, you want to make sure you put that date in your calendar. You can find the release dates for the reservations right here. There are 3 things that will help with making Yosemite reservations. The first is just being flexible on the dates. If you have a specific date that you're looking to make reservations for, you're going to have a really hard time making reservations at Yosemite Valley. There are literally thousands of people that are lined up ready to make campsite reservations on the 15th. And so being as flexible as possible with the dates is very important. The second thing that you're going to want to do is to practice and prepare beforehand. You don't want to just go to the site at 7 a.m. and just sort of wing it. You really want to have a firm understanding on how the site works. I'm going to go into this into a little more detail just in a second, but you need to know how it works. You need to have the recreation.gov account created, and you also need to be ready right at 7 a.m., have that site selected and ready to add that site to your cart. The last thing I'd recommend is that you have multiple devices, you have multiple accounts, and you also enlist the help of family and friends. I'll have specific recommendations in just a sec, but the more devices and the more people that help you make reservations, the more likely it is that you're going to get a site. All right, so let's get into practicing. So I'm going to go to recreation.gov, and if I look at, and I'm going to be doing this as I talk about it, if I look at, for instance, Lower Pines Campground at Yosemite, you're going to see that there's not any campsites that are available for us to practice with. So it makes it a little bit difficult. And so as I'm looking at the campsites, it's going to pull them up here in just a second. And so as I'm looking at the campsites, they're all reserved. And even if I go to the day 5 minutes in advance, they're still going to be all reserved. So when you're practicing, you actually need to practice with a different campsite. So I'm going to go to some place close to me, which is Boulder Beach Campground here in Las Vegas. And so as I scroll down, you can now see that I can actually practice. And so basically what you really want to practice doing is selecting the check-in date being this date right here, and the check-out date, so the date that you're going to check out, and then clicking on Add to Cart. So basically, you're just going to be doing that kind of over and over again till you get really fast at it, because literally what happens is campsites become available and you have to select them very quickly and add it to your cart, and if you're not fast enough, somebody else will grab the site. So really what you want to do, when you click on Add to Cart, it takes a little while for it to go into the cart, is basically just select, and kind of pretend that you're going to add to cart. Select, pretending like you're adding it to the cart, and then I'm removing that site. Select. And you want to make sure that you get really fast with this. You could probably get a mouse. I've got just a touchpad that I'm using on my Mac, so it's a little bit slower. But basically it's just practicing this kind of over and over again till you get really quick with it. The other thing that you want to pay attention to is if you look at these 2 dates right here, it looks like the only 2 dates that I can actually select would be this date and this date. But watch what happens. This is actually the checkout date right here. So as soon as I select the check-in date, you get a little diagonal line there that's saying it's available. So now you can select this as your checkout date, and then it's selected. So it's a little bit confusing. So it doesn't look like you would be able to select this one and then this one, but as soon as this is selected, then you can select this one. So just know we got a little bit confused the first time that we did this, and so it's just something you should be aware of up front. So the other thing that you want to probably do is go full screen on the grid here so that you can see more dates. So you can click this button right here to go full screen. Okay, so now you can see actually how many days is this? This is quite a bit. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so this is actually 15 days worth. So just about a little more than 2 weeks. And so it gives you a little more range of dates. And so when you're actually making your Yosemite reservations that morning of the 15th, you'll probably want to go full screen. So the other thing that you want to be aware of is this refresh table button. As reservations are made, all of a sudden reservations will become available. So you can click on the refresh table button, this right here, and that'll refresh the campsites. And so you're kind of going to continually do that over and over again as you're trying to make a reservation at Yosemite, is to hit that refresh table button. So the next thing that you're going to want to do, other than practicing like crazy, is really get a good idea on what campsites that you want to reserve at Yosemite. So you're going to have to do a little bit of research. Really, we only have between Upper Pines and Lower Pines campgrounds. So Upper Pines is the bigger campground. You probably have less space on the actual sites, and Lower Pines is a smaller campground and you actually have a little bit more space. And so we really wanted to be in Lower Pines, so that's what we tried to reserve. Now, this is where having multiple devices and multiple accounts can do you some good. So we actually had 3 PCs, an iPad, and 2 iPhones, and you'll see, here's an example of our setup. I'll show you the quick video of this. Okay, so this is basically our setup. So we have our 6 devices right here. They're all logged in, and they're all have the campsite selected. So basically all we have to do is click the add to cart button, and Nicole is moving her mouse right over to the top of that. And so we basically had 6 devices, and we really wanted to stay at Lower Pines. And so we chose 4 of our favorite sites at Lower Pines, and we selected those sites beforehand, and right at 7 a.m. we were basically ready to select them. And so really what you want to do as much as possible is have multiple devices all set up, ready to go at exactly 7 a.m. Click the add to cart button. And so for instance, on my device here, I would select, for instance, this campsite as the check-in date, this as the checkout date, and then I would put my mouse right over here on the add to cart button, and then right at 7 a.m. on all the devices that I had, I'd quickly go through and try to select each of them to try to nab a campsite. So the more devices that you have that are trying to nab a campsite, probably the better your success will be. All right, so you'll recall that when I first went to the Lower Pines campground, how it looked like this. And there's no way to practice, and there's no way to select campsites before that 7 a.m. start time, right? So all of a sudden, it's like an hour before the reservations are open. At 6 a.m. exactly, the sites go from looking like this to looking like this right here. And so you can, at this point, you can select the campsites, but you can't add them to your cart. If you try to add them to your cart, it'll give you an error. So it's basically just making sure that they're selected and then getting ready to hit that add to cart button. All right, so on the morning of the 15th, as part of your preparations, what you're going to need to do is get the world clock open. So here's the web address for the Las Vegas one. Just do a search for world clock. And what I do is I take the window and I kind of change it a little bit. But it's really important that you have the seconds showing. So what we do is right at 7 a.m., so pretty much 10 seconds beforehand, I'll start doing a countdown, 10, 9, 8. That way, me and my wife are both on the same page and we're ready to go. And so here's the little video of this year as we're getting ready to try to make our Yosemite reservations. 6:59, 15 seconds. We got 40 seconds to go.
Stretched.
Come on.
This is going to give us a 5-second.
Okay, 10, 9, 8, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, go. So the other thing that you're going to really need is patience. So the last 2 years, even though we were ready to go at 7 a.m., we had multiple sites selected, we had the world clock open right at 7 a.m., we hit the add to cart button, yeah, we didn't get sites. So we got errors and it didn't go through, and we thought we had it, but we didn't. So you need to be patient. So what happens is people that are maybe a little faster, maybe they have a faster internet connection, maybe they got lucky, I don't know. So somehow, some way, sometimes other people, they'll get multiple sites, or they'll find a site and they'll try to nab another site because it's a little bit better. But basically, after you selected a site and added it to your cart, you basically have 15 minutes to check out, or it's going to release all the sites. And so people will drop sites and then they'll check out, and then all of a sudden those additional sites will become available to you. So the first year it took us 45 minutes to get a reservation. So we started at 7. We didn't get a reservation until about 7:45 or 7:50, I think. And that actually might be generous. We might actually not have got one until after 8 o'clock. So basically you need to have your table open, and you need to be persistent. You need to keep hitting the update table button, this guy right here, the refresh table button. And what will happen is it will refresh the table. What's nice is you don't have to scroll down, okay? So any new reservations that all of a sudden, any campsites that do become available, they will show up right at the top. And so just keep hitting that refresh table button. So you really need to be patient, you need to be persistent, but you need to be ready. You need to add that campsite as quickly as possible and add it to your cart. And even though you think you got it, those first couple of times you might not get it. So it's frustrating, but you can do it. We've done it the last 2 years. If you're patient, if you're persistent, if you prepare, you can actually get a campsite. So my last recommendation is to get help. Enlist the help of family and friends to help you make your Yosemite reservations. You'll want to have an account created for each person and make sure that you know what the email address, the login is for that person, as well as their password. And basically have everybody trying to help you make Yosemite reservations. You could probably share accounts. I have heard though that there are some security implementations on recreation.gov, and if it sees multiple logins from different locations, it might put a CAPTCHA on, which might make it a little more difficult to log in. And so I would probably create accounts for every person. Just make sure that you know the login and the password of that account. So as soon as that person nabs a campsite, have them call you, keep your phone open if you aren't trying to use it to make reservations, and then log in as that person's credentials, and then you can pay for the reservation with your credit card. So that's it. I've told you everything I know, so I really hope this helps you get your Yosemite reservations. We have a little more flexibility than most folks out there. My wife is retiring at the end of August, and so we're going to have lots of opportunities of making Yosemite reservations in the future, but hopefully this will help you get your Yosemite reservations. Me and my wife did a couple of additional videos. So last year we created a video about our Yosemite vacation, and in addition, we just recently created kind of a parody comedy. It's a short, so it's under 60 seconds, but kind of our preparations for making Yosemite reservations. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And those videos will be linked on the end screen. If you got some value from this video, please hit the like button. YouTube really looks at the likes, and the more likes I get, the more likely it is to send this content out to other folks. And also consider subscribing. I got a lot of great content. It's good stuff about camping and about hiking with dogs. And yeah, you don't want to miss any of my upcoming content. And I hope to see you in the next one again very soon.
I've seen a lot of change, been through a lot of pain. Some things are not the same as they were a year ago, but all will be okay. I move on each and every day. The past is where it stays, way back a year ago.